Hey, so a fairly quick brain dump on my way into work. I was watching Thunderfoot's latest video because several of us have talked about free speech and how it relates to the difference between public and private speech, that our YouTube channels, Facebook, blogs, forums, all of those things that are ours, we're ultimately the ones who decide what is and isn't permissible there. And that there's absolutely nothing immoral or dishonest about blocking people for whatever reason. Now, if you're not interested in that sort of discussion, or if you're not interested in discussing this in this particular area, so what? But he says that we're wrong, that these things aren't analogous to our homes. They're more like having a soapbox in the park, in a public forum, and that silencing people is something you couldn't do in that forum. That this is what YouTube actually is, and that is the way that great ideas are discussed and debated in the course of free expression and the free evaluation of ideas, and that we'll never get a consensus if we're not allowing absolutely everybody to speak. Well, he's wrong. First of all, the park on a soapbox is not the places that great ideas come to be mulled over by intellectuals and gain consensus. The park is the place where people with pasteboard, sandwich board signs about doom and gloom and conspiracy theories and how maligned they've been go, because they cannot get their ideas into the forums where those big ideas could be discussed and evaluated, because they're probably not big ideas. YouTube, if it's like anything in the park, it's like a festival in the park where everybody has rented and set up a booth. And I have my booth, and you have your booth. And I'm in charge of what gets said or not said in my booth. If I want to have discussions in my booth, I can. You have to actually come into my booth. You have to, come in. It's not like you're just walking by and you're automatically accosted with whatever's going on. You have to click play. You have to walk into my booth and engage. And it's a one-directional communication. You can offer feedback if that's the type of thing that I want to allow in my booth. Meanwhile, the whole of the park is free. You can go set up your own booth there, and you can even have a booth next to mine that responds to my booth, but you don't necessarily have any right to do so in my booth. And I'm not violating your rights to kick you out of my booth, and it doesn't make me automatically intellectually dishonest to say, no, I don't want that in my booth. For example, if I've got a booth set up where I'm trying to have conversation A, I'm trying to relate a particular set of information to people, and somebody comes in and all they want to do is derail the conversation and send it off in a different direction, that's counterproductive, and it's in my best interest, in order to actually get the idea out there and encourage conversation about it, to make sure that those people aren't allowed in my booth. And as long as it's my booth, and as long as I'm renting it, and as long as I have those rights, then yes, in fact, it is much more analogous to you coming into my house to hear something than it is to me putting up a soapbox. If I go down to the park today and set up a soapbox, anybody that wants to can interrupt me and heckle me and harass me. And I happen to get whatever audience stumbles by. That's not the same as YouTube. Thunder's analogy is flawed, and his continued complaints that the other analogies are all flawed just baffle me. Because you have to actually stop and enter somebody's booth. You have to actually choose to go to somebody's channel, choose play, and listen. And then, if they have comments enabled, and if you're willing to have conversations within the bounds that they've determined, you can engage on their channel. And if you don't like the way they run their channel, you get to go off and do exactly what Thunderfoot's doing, which is respond on your own channel, just as I'm doing now. If Thunderfoot had banned me from his channel, and he won't, most likely, despite the fact that I banned him from mine, I'm not going to be upset about that. I'm not going to claim that my free speech rights are being violated, because they're not. I'm right here, right now, exercising them. And I'm still able to respond to Thunderfoot whether he let me into his channel or not. I don't know how many times we've had these conversations about free speech, and I don't know where the confusion comes. I don't know if it's an Americanized idea of free speech versus other views as free speech. I don't know if it's an internet culture thing where the push is for everything to be free and everybody gets to talk, which is true about the internet, and it's also true about the park, but it's not true about individual booths at the park. And the forums that we create, the blogs we create, the YouTube channels we create, those are our individual booths at the park. You don't get to sell your stuff in my booth unless I let you.